The primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation but your thoughts about it. Bring your attention to your breathing and realize that you are not doing it. It is the breath of nature. You reconnect with nature in the most intimate and powerful way by becoming aware of your breathing and learning to hold your attention there. This is a healing and deeply empowering thing to do. It brings about a shift in consciousness from the conceptual world of thought to the inner realm of unconditioned consciousness. Love, joy, and peace cannot flourish until you have freed yourself from mind dominance. Enlightenment means rising above thought, not falling back to a level below thought, the level of an animal or a plant. In the enlightened state, you still use your thinking mind when needed, but in a much more focused and effective way than before. The source of all abundance is not outside of you. It's a part of who you are. Waiting is a state of mind. Basically, it means that you want the future, you don't want the present. You don't want what you've got, and you want what you haven't got. With every kind of waiting, you unconsciously create inner conflict between your here and now, where you don't want to be, and the projected future, where you want to be. This greatly reduces the quality of your life by making you lose the present. Life wants to support you, but first you need to be open to life. To listen to the silence, wherever you are, is an easy and direct way of becoming present. Even if there is noise, there is always some silence underneath and in between the sounds. Listening to the silence immediately creates stillness inside you.
Don't forget to subscribe. Afterwards, the wisest and most spiritual books from the greatest authors await you every day. And now buckle up, sit back and we'll begin.
As soon as you honor the present moment, all unhappiness and struggle dissolve, and life begins to flow with joy and ease. When you act out the present moment awareness, whatever you do becomes imbued with a sense of quality, care, and love, even the most simple action. Look at a tree, a flower, a plant. Let your awareness rest upon it. How still they are, how deeply rooted in being. Allow nature to teach you stillness. Words reduce reality to something the human mind can grasp, which isn't very much. Language consists of 5 basic sounds produced by the vocal cords. They are the vowels A, E, I, O, U. The other sounds are consonants produced by air pressure, S, F, G, and so forth. Do you believe some combination of such basic sounds could ever explain who you are, or the ultimate purpose of the universe, or even what a tree or stone is in its depth? If you really want to know your mind, the body will always give you a truthful reflection, so look at the emotion, or rather feel it in your body. If there is an apparent conflict between them, the thought will be the lie, the emotion will be the truth. When you are trapped in a nightmare, your motivation to awaken will be so much greater than that of someone caught up in a relatively pleasant dream. When you become comfortable with uncertainty, infinite possibilities open up in your life. It means fear is no longer a dominant factor in what you do and no longer prevents you from taking action to initiate change. The Roman philosopher Tacitus rightly observed that the desire for safety stands against every great and noble enterprise. If uncertainty is unacceptable to you, it turns into fear. If it is perfectly acceptable, it turns into aliveness, alertness and creativity. Nothing has happened in the past, it happened in the now. Nothing will ever happen in the future, it will happen in the now. You find peace not by rearranging the circumstances of your life, but by realizing who you are at the deepest level. The ego says, I shouldn't have to suffer, and that thought makes you suffer so much more. It is a distortion of the truth, which is always paradoxical. The truth is that you need to say yes to suffering before you can transcend it. Thinking is compulsive, you can't stop, or so it seems. It is also addictive, you don't even want to stop, at least not until the suffering generated by the continuous mental noise becomes unbearable. I never went out and said, I want to do this. I never do that. I wait for things to come to me, either within or without, and I go along with it. Tragedy turns into comedy when you watch your own drama and realizing it as a mind-created fiction designed to create you a sense of identity. Direct your attention inward. Have a look inside yourself. What kind of thoughts is your mind producing? What do you feel? Direct your attention into the body. Is there any tension? Once you detect that there is a low level of unease, the background static, see in what way you are avoiding, resisting, or denying life by denying the now. For many people, the first indication of a spiritual awakening is that they suddenly become aware of their thoughts. They become a witness to their thoughts, so to speak. They are not completely identified with their mind anymore, and so they begin to sense that there is a depth to them that they had never known before. It is precisely through the onset of old age, through loss or personal tragedy, that the spiritual dimension would traditionally come into people's lives. This is to say, their inner purpose would emerge only as their outer purpose collapsed and the shell of the ego would begin to crack open. The emphasis shifts from doing to being, and our civilization, which is lost in doing, knows nothing of being. It asks, being, what do you do with it? Become an alchemist. Transmute base metal into gold, suffering into consciousness, disaster into enlightenment. There are two ways of being unhappy. One is not getting what you want, and the other is getting what you want. Give up waiting as a state of mind. When you catch yourself slipping into waiting, snap out of it. Come into the present moment. Just be and enjoy being. The sun never sets. It is only an appearance due to the observer's limited perspective. And yet, what a sublime illusion it is. Pay more attention to the silence than to the sounds. Paying attention to outer silence creates inner silence. The mind becomes still. A portal is opening up. You are not in the now, you are the now. That is your essential identity, the only thing that never changes. Life is always now. Now is consciousness. And consciousness is who you are. That's the equation. When you awaken spiritually, in fact, you can use thought much more effectively than before, but you realize there is a depth to your being, a vibrantly alive stillness that is much vaster than thought. It is consciousness itself, of which the thinking mind is only a tiny aspect. The pollution of the planet is only an outward reflection of an inner psychic pollution, millions of unconscious individuals not taking responsibility for their inner space. Being an outsider to some extent, someone who does not fit in with others or is rejected by them for whatever reason, makes life difficult, but it also places you at an advantage as far as enlightenment is concerned. It takes you out of unconsciousness almost by force. Time is the horizontal dimension of life, the surface layer of reality. Then there is the vertical dimension of depth, accessible only through the portal of the present moment. Accept the present moment and find the perfection that is deeper than any form and untouched by time. Evil is an extreme manifestation of human unconsciousness. When you always want the next thing, every human being becomes a means to an end. It is not uncommon for people to spend their whole life waiting to start living. Not to be able to stop thinking is a dreadful affliction, but we don't realize this because almost everyone is suffering from it, so it is considered normal. This incessant mental noise prevents you from finding that realm of inner stillness that is inseparable from being. Pleasure is always derived from something outside you, whereas joy arises from within. Resistance keeps you stuck. Surrender immediately opens you to the greater intelligence that is vaster than the human mind, and it can then express itself through you. So through surrender often you find circumstances changing. Whenever anything negative happens to you, there is a deep lesson concealed within it, although you may not see it at the time. When you are not honoring the present moment by allowing it to be, you are creating drama. Nothing that comes and goes is you. I am bored. Who knows this? I am angry, sad, afraid. Who knows this? You are the knowing, not the condition that is known. The foundation of greatness is honoring the small things of the present moment, instead of pursuing the idea of greatness. The brain does not create consciousness, but consciousness created the brain, the most complex physical form on earth, for its expression. You don't have to wait for something meaningful to come into your life so that you can finally enjoy what you do. There is more meaning in joy than you will ever need. The waiting to start living syndrome is one of the most common delusions of the unconscious state. Life is an adventure, it's not a package tour. The whole essence of Zen consists in walking along the razor's edge of now, to be so utterly, so completely present that no problem, no suffering, nothing that is not who you are in your essence, can survive in you. In the now, in the absence of time, all your problems dissolve. Suffering needs time. It cannot survive in the now. Don't get stuck on the level of words. A word is no more than a means to an end. It's an abstraction. Not unlike a signpost, it points beyond itself. It is when we are trapped in incessant streams of compulsive thinking that the universe really disintegrates for us, and we lose the ability to sense the interconnectedness of all that exists. When you see around you the human form suffering or dissolving, you have empathy on the human level. You share the suffering because it has to do with the fleetingness of form. But if that is the only level that operates in you, you haven't gone beyond suffering. The word Buddha comes from the Sanskrit word Bud, meaning, to be awake. So Buddha is not a name and ultimately not a person, but a state of consciousness. Accepting means you allow yourself to feel whatever it is you are feeling at that moment. It is part of the isness of the now. You can't argue with what is. Well, you can, but if you do, you suffer. Your inner purpose is to awaken. It is as simple as that. You share that purpose with every other person on the planet, because it is the purpose of humanity. Some people get attached to their practice. They get good at it, but even becoming a good meditator can become a hindrance. The great arises out of small things that are honored and cared for. Everybody's life really consists of small things. Greatness is a mental abstraction and a favorite fantasy of the ego. The paradox is that the foundation for greatness is the honoring of small things of the present moment instead of pursuing the idea of greatness. If you are in the habit of creating suffering for yourself, then you are probably creating suffering for others too. Pick up any history book, and I suggest you begin with studying the 20th century, and you will find that a large part of the history of our species has all the characteristics we would normally associate with a nightmare or an insane hallucination. The greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It is self-created as long as the unobserved mind runs your life. In you, as in each human being, there is a dimension of consciousness far deeper than thought. It is the very essence of who you are. We may call it presence, awareness, the unconditioned consciousness. Non-resistance is the key to the greatest power in the universe. If small things have the power to disturb you, then who you think you are is exactly that, small. People can't live with themselves much longer. The planet cannot live with humans much longer. We have the weaponry, destruction of the planet, pollution, destruction of forests, countless manifestations of humans using their intelligence in the service of the dysfunction, the madness. It's a strange juxtaposition. Humans are intelligent, but if you look at history or even watch TV, they're also incredibly stupid. The future does not exist, because nobody has ever experienced it. You can only ever experience a present moment. One way to become aware many times during the day is to take a conscious breath. Doing so breaks the stream of thinking. When you can no longer feel the life that you are likely to try to fill up your life with things. I do not put much emphasis on periods of meditation. If you do meditation, it's fine, but the important thing is to bring the awareness into everyday life, into every little action that you do, into the varied challenges of everyday life. Surrender comes when you no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" A genuine relationship is one that is not dominated by the ego with its image-making and self-seeking. In a genuine relationship, there is an outward flow of open, alert attention toward the other person in which there is no wanting whatsoever. True creativity flows only from stillness. When stillness becomes conscious, the spiritual dimension enters your life and you begin to be guided by an intelligence far greater than the human mind. What you react to in others, you strengthen in yourself. Neither failure nor success has the power to change your inner state of being. Stress is caused by being here but wanting to be there, or being in the present but wanting to be in the future. It's a split that tears you apart inside. Whatever you accept completely will take you to peace, including the acceptance that you cannot accept, that you are in resistance. When you go deeply into the present, gratitude arises spontaneously, even if it's just gratitude for breathing, gratitude for the aliveness that you feel in your body. Gratitude is there when you acknowledge the aliveness of the present moment. In the eyes of the ego, self-esteem and humility are contradictory. In truth, they are one and the same. Surrender becomes so much easier when you realize the fleeting nature of all experiences and that the world cannot give you anything of lasting value. You then continue to meet people, to be involved in experience and activities, but without the wants and fears of the egoic self. That is to say, you no longer demand that a situation, person, place, or event should satisfy you or make you happy. Its passing and imperfect nature is allowed to be. Through forgiveness, which essentially means recognizing the insubstantiality of the past and allowing the present moment to be as it is, the miracle of transformation happens not only within but also without. If your mind carries a heavy burden of past, you will experience more of the same. The past perpetuates itself through lack of presence. The quality of your consciousness at this moment is what shapes the future. You cannot fight against the ego and win, just as you cannot fight against darkness. The light of consciousness is all that is necessary. You are that light. Being is accessible to you now as your own deepest self, your true nature. But don't seek to grasp it with your mind. Don't try to understand it. You can know it only when the mind is still. When you are present, when your attention is fully and intensely in the now, being can be felt, but it can never be understood mentally. Not to be able to stop thinking is an affliction, but we don't realize this because almost everybody is suffering from it. You are not in the universe, you are the universe, an intrinsic part of it. Ultimately you are not a person, but a focal point where the universe is becoming conscious of itself. What an amazing miracle! The most rigid structures, the most impervious to change, will collapse first. So the single most vital step on your journey toward enlightenment is this: learn to disidentify from your mind. Every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, the light of your consciousness grows stronger. One day you may catch yourself smiling at the voice in your head, as you would smile at the antics of a child. This means that you no longer take the content of your mind all that seriously, as your sense of self does not depend on it. The mind is a superb instrument if used rightly. Used wrongly, however, it becomes very destructive. To put it more accurately, you usually don't use it at all. It uses you. The greatest achievement of humanity is not its works of art, science, or technology, but the recognition of its own dysfunction. You cannot have an argument with a fully conscious person. Pain is inevitable as long as you are identified with your mind. When your sense of self is no longer tied to thought, is no longer conceptual, there is a depth of feeling, of sensing, of compassion, of loving, that was not there when you were trapped in mental concepts. You are that depth. Unconscious means identified totally with thought. You reduce reality to a conceptual reality. Spiritual awakening is awakening from the dream of thought. Many people see themselves as a problem that needs to be solved. They also habitually see the present moment as an obstacle that they need to overcome or get away from. With awareness, an inner sense of spaciousness arises that enables you to look at your own mind, which is to say the human mind, with a certain degree of detachment. Forget about your life situation and pay attention to your life. Your life situation exists in time. Your life is now. Your life situation is mind stuff. Your life is real. Instead of asking what do I want from life, a more powerful question is, what does life want from me? Narrow your life down to this moment. Your life situation may be full of problems, most life situations are, but find out if you have a problem at this moment. Do you have a problem now? Only when you've truly had enough suffering in your life, are you able to say I don't need it anymore? Don't think of yourself as having a past, don't think of yourself as having a future. What's left? What is commonly called falling in love is in most cases an intensification of egoic wanting and needing. You become addicted to another person, or rather to your image of that person. It has nothing to do with true love, which contains no wanting whatsoever. The psychological condition of fear is divorced from any concrete and true immediate danger. It comes in many forms: unease, worry, anxiety, nervousness, tension, dread, phobia, and so on. This kind of psychological fear is always of something that might happen, not of something that is happening now. Evolution usually occurs in response to a crisis situation, and we now are faced with such a crisis situation. This is why there is indeed an enormous acceleration in the awakening process of our species. Being spiritual has nothing to do with what you believe and everything to do with your state of consciousness. Whenever you become anxious or stressed, outer purpose has taken over, and you lost sight of your inner purpose. You have forgotten that your state of consciousness is primary, all else secondary.
And that's not all. Our experts and regular viewers respond to all comments. Also check if you forgot to subscribe and set your bell to receive notifications about new audiobooks and other useful self-development materials that we release regularly. Join in the discussions, don't forget to give likes and, if possible and inspired, support the development of the channel financially. All useful links will be in the description and the first attached comment. Goodness, love and wisdom to all. And now move on to watch the next part of the video at the links below, or choose something from the playlists of the channel and those you see on the screen.